It's 2012. A guy in Atlanta named Ben Armstrong bought half a Bitcoin. He paid somewhere around $12.50 a coin. He was not a finance guy. He had a degree in ministry worship from like this small Christian college. He ran a little marketing business. For a while, he did work for like a local rehabilitation center. And by most accounts back then, an ordinary, friendly, hardworking guy, the kind of neighbor who helps you carry a couch up a flight of stairs and doesn't make it weird. And I want you to hold this picture of this guy because the man at the beginning of this story and the man at the end of it are technically the same person. This whole episode lives in the distance between those two men. All right, you are listening to What's on Your Riste. I am Riste, also known as Wachowski. This is a watch show. I promise we will get to watches, but I got to give you some background first. We're starting somewhere strange on purpose because this is an episode about a thing that has quietly poisoned almost every hobby that exists online. Ours very much included. The paid shill. SHILL. I'll spell that one out for you. The person who tells you they love something because somebody wrote them this monster check to love it out loud, and then they never mention the check. The person who recommends a strap only because they got that strap for free, and then in the fine print, it tells you this is exactly what you're supposed to say about this strap. You know, me, for example, who gets hundreds of these now, requests things like, hey, we run blank, 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 and we make straps for this watch and this watch and this watch. Would you be open to a collaboration? We'll send you a free strap. In return, we ask you for a post on this, ideally a post on Watch You Seek, ideally a post on Watch Crunch, ideally a post on Reddit, a positive review. And if you're interested, tell me what you're interested in. We'll send you free gear. That's what you get when you're in this space. And that's just the beginning. I am a nobody in this space. I'm a nobody. I'm a small, independent dude who sits at a computer and writes up stuff and talks about history and talks to you one on one. I am nobody in this space. And I get hundreds of these. Why? Why? Because they want people to sell out and to become paid advertising because they realize that the ads that they put on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, they don't hit. But someone like me and someone like you who has a small little space and they put a new strap on their watch or whatever and they ask you where that strap came from, that hits harder. Why? Because it looks genuine. And I'm telling you right here, part of me is going to be really pissed during this episode because the paid shill really bothers me. This is the person who tells you again that they love something because they were told to love it. They never bought it. And before I start to point fingers, because I'm going to get a little worked up in this one, they have taken over our space. I want to tell you about this man that, took this road as far as a human being can take on it. And I'm not going to dunk on this dude. You're going to see he did it to himself. I think he's the warning for this entire space. And I think there is something underneath it. There's a story that is actually about you and me and the watches on our wrists and everything that gets ugly in between it. So let's talk about the receipts first. So let's get back to Ben. Most of you probably know him by the name that he built, which is BitBoy, BITBOY. Starting in like 2018, Ben Armstrong turned that BitBoy name into like the loudest voice in crypto. He launched a YouTube channel. He brought in a partner. He built a company around it. And he was, in fairness, pretty good at the actual job for a while. He could take something genuinely confusing, which is blockchain and protocol and market cycles, and make them kind of land for what regular people became. And they had never bought anything more exotic than like a mutual fund, and he met people where they were. And that's kind of a real skill. I'm not going to pretend that it isn't, okay? By 2021, at the very top of the market, the operation was enormous. More than 1 million subscribers on YouTube, a few million across every other platform that they had. Revenue by some reports reached as high as somewhere in the $500,000 a month range. And he said himself that at the peak he was sitting on tens of millions of dollars in crypto. And here's where the story takes a turn, not at the top. The turn is never at the top. The turn is in how you behave once you're standing there. In early 2023, a document leaked. People in the space called it the rate card, and it laid out allegedly what it cost to get the BitBoy treatment. Roughly $40,000 for a review on a YouTube channel, $20,000 for a mention on Twitter or X, $10,000 for a plug in their Telegram group. Now, pause with me. There's nothing illegal and honestly nothing even wrong about charging money to talk about a product. We're going to come back to that hard because I think that matters for us, and we're going to put a pin in that for now. But just know that this is kind of how this space works. The problem again was never the money changing hands. The problem was that the audience didn't know. People watched a man they trusted look into a camera and tell them a project was promising, and that they had no idea that in some cases the project had paid for the privilege of being called a promise. The viewers thought they were getting a read. They thought they were getting basically an advertisement, which is what they were getting, but it was kind of wearing this sort of reviewer's clothing, an expert's clothing. And all of those projects went badly. Some of the names he put in front of his audience were later flagged by regulators as straight up scams or outright fraud. Independent investigators actually in the space, people like on the on-train research, they go by like you might have found someone like Zach XBT, started pulling the thread on undisclosed promotions. And the picture came out and it was ugly. Over and over, the audience that trusted him ended up being exited. They started to leave. They bought in at the top so that someone else could get cleaned out. And there's a cold phrase for that in this world. They call it exit liquidity, and his own viewers became the exit liquidity for all of them. And then here's the part that for me gives the whole thing away. Back in 2021, a smaller YouTuber, a guy named Atozy, it's Atozy, full name is Erling, it's Erling, and then Atozy, and then Mengsol, it's Mengshoel. He made a video criticizing exactly this, calling out the promotion of projects that hurt regular people, and Ben's response was to sue him. A defamation lawsuit that was basically around $75,000 aimed at a much smaller creator for the time, basically saying out loud what turned out to be very true. And the internet did something beautiful in response. Strangers crowdfunded this kid's legal defense. One trader kicked in $100,000 of his own money. And Armstrong, Ben, was facing a fight that he was going to lose in court, and the court was going to be of public opinion, so he dropped the lawsuit. Now, sit with this sequence for a second because it's the tell. When a critic said the quiet part out loud, the instinct was not to answer the criticism, the instinct was to make the critic stop. That is not the move of a man who believes he's clean. That is the move of a man protecting something he does not want examined. Now, where does this lead? I told you at the top, this was not like a dunk, and I meant it. I'm going to tell you how it ends plainly, and then I'm going to stop. I'm going to shut up for a second because past a certain point, this stops being a story about a shill and becomes a story about a person who just completely came apart. And I refuse to make it a highlight reel out of that. People suffer, they deserve opportunities to redeem themselves, but the story itself is painful. And so in the summer of 2023, the company that he built removed him. His own brand, the name that was his name, was taken from him by the people who actually owned it. The reasons they gave were serious and personal, and I'm not going to read them out loud like a tabloid, but it got ugly. What followed was a long fall. He lost the brand, he lost the company, there were lawsuits coming from all over the place, there were arrests, and then earlier in the year of this recording, a federal judge ordered him to pay nearly $3 million in defamation cases after he made a genuinely vile and false accusation against another public figure. When his lawyers tried to undo that judgment, the filings referenced his own incarceration, and a mental health diagnosis in 2026. And the wallets once tied, him to reportedly be basically all empty. The brand he lost got rebranded and it moved on without him. And that's where I'm going to stop this kind of recounting. Not because there isn't more, because there is nothing left in it for us as watch collectors. A man chasing the next windfall, burning every relationship in his path, his audience, his colleagues, his family, his own name, until there was nothing left standing. We don't need close ups of that. Here's the thing in all of it, I actually want to take with you and take with us as we move forward. There's something to learn here. We tell ourselves comforting little lies. We tell ourselves that money reveals people, or worse, that money fixes them. If a person can just get successful enough or comfortable enough that they would finally relax and become decent people. It doesn't work like that. Like, I wrote a whole book trying to say this one thing. A person who has a moral compass when they are broke will still have that moral compass when they're rich. A person who does not have one will not grow up and become that person once they're successful. Success does not hand anybody character. It doesn't remove any of that. It just removes the excuses and turns up the volume on whoever they already were. So money in this space especially is not a destination. At best, money is fuel. It gets you to where you are already pointing. If you're pointed somewhere good, it gets you there faster. And if you were only ever pointed at the next win or the next windfall or the next big number, no amount will ever be enough, because the hunt was never really about the money. The hunt was the whole personality. There is no number that ends that hunt. Ben Armstrong is not a crypto story. He's a character story that happened to be denominated in Bitcoin. And character stories do not stay in one hobby, which brings me home to us, finally. Let's talk about this turn. Here's the line that I've carried around for years, and it came from a graduation speech of all places. A surgeon, I'm watching my wife graduate, by the way, for this story. A surgeon, a very humble guy near the end of his life, he said to a room full of new graduates that a handful of them would become successful, wildly successful. And in those moments, they would have to decide one thing, whether they wanted to make a killing or whether they wanted to make a living. I think about that constantly. I think that it is exactly the right lens for our world. So let me say some things very clearly, because I don't want to be or have any of this misunderstood. It is okay to make a living from watches. It's a beautiful thing, actually. If you photograph watches, write up about watches, repair watches, sell watches, make videos about watches, and you feed your kids doing it, that is a wonderful thing. The watch world should have more people who get to do the thing that they love for a living, not fewer. It is okay, and this is going to sound counter to what I just laid out, it is okay to promote stuff. Sponsorship, I don't think, is a sin. Advertising is not a sin. A brand paying a creator to put out a product in front of an audience is one of the oldest and most honest arrangements that there is. When the caveat is, in bold letters, when everybody knows the arrangement exists. There is exactly one thing that is not okay, and that is the only thing that I want to talk about for this entire episode. It is not okay to take money and then pretend you didn't. It is not okay to hand someone a paid placement and call it an unbiased review. The moment you let your audience believe they're getting your honest read, when they're actually getting something else is an advertisement, you have done the BitBoy thing. Smaller, maybe, quieter, with a much nicer watch on your wrist, but it's the same thing. You have turned the people who trust you into exit liquidity for someone else, for someone else's marketing budget. Making a living is taking the check and telling the truth about the check. Making a killing is taking the check and letting your audience pay for your silence about it. Those are different jobs. They look identical from the outside, but just for a little while. And I'm telling this to the people who are in this space. People are starting to notice. So let me tell you where this show actually stands and why I'm upset about it. We try as hard as we can with the resources of basically one dude and a microphone to try to be as fiercely independent as we can. And I want to be honest about where this comes from because it comes from two places at once. One, part of it, the small part, is pure exhaustion. I am tired. You are tired. We are all so tired of being sold by people pretending that they're not selling. We are tired of the enthusiasm that turns out to be an invoice. After a while, you just kind of want one room in the house where nobody is working an angle on you. And that's why I wanted this show. This is what I want this show to be. I want it to be that room that's the quiet space that's, I'm not selling you stuff. But that's the small part. The bigger part, the real part is respect. I have genuine, almost embarrassing respect for this craft, for the history of it, for the people who spent 400 years figuring out how to measure time with a spring and a wheel and a human eye and making every single part by hand. For the independent makers grinding away in a workshop nobody's ever heard of. And most of all, I have respect for you, the actual enthusiasts, the people who fell for this stuff for the right reasons, who got a little obsessed, who learned the names of movements and the stories, who lie awake thinking about the watch that they're probably never going to own, and that's okay. The respect is the thing that makes the shill economy feel not just annoying, but kind of insulting. Because when you take a community of sincere people and you quietly monetize their trust, you're not just making money. You're treating their sincerity as a resource to be strip mined. And I'm not willing to do that for you. And if you're an advertiser and you're reaching out to me and you have products, please stop. The craft deserves better. And frankly, so do you. Now, the disclosure line. So people ask fairly, will this show ever take sponsorship? The honest answer, probably not. And here's the exact bar so you can hold me to it forever. If it ever happens, it would be something that already fits the ethos of the show. Something that I would actually spend my own money on. Better yet, this is going to be my line, something that I've actually spent my own money on already, bought with my own cash, and I kept. I didn't flip. I didn't get rid of. It wasn't a catch and release. It wasn't gifted to me. It wasn't loaned for review. It was bought and kept. If a strap maker or a tool company or some small independent ever wanted to sponsor a show, it would be one I was quietly already recommending to friends for free. That might work. But anything else, please stop. And the second half of the matter, no more than that. If the day ever comes, and you know it will, or we think it will, I will tell you plainly in the episode with no cleverness about it. This part is paid. Here's who paid for it. Now, here's my actual opinion, which you can weigh however you want, knowing what you know. That's the deal. And I have a feeling that's probably never going to happen. But if it does, I'm going to be upfront about it. I don't want to be that guy. I've seen it too many times. The disclosure is not going to be in the fine print. It'll be the first sentence. It's the entire ethic of what we're doing here. And then honestly, it kind of crushes the whole fun of this thing. So here's the thing about the show. Again, this show is not mine. I thought it was mine. It is not. It is a tiny democracy. You send in suggestions, you tell me what you want to hear about, you point me to the makers that you've never heard of, or I try to point you to one maybe you've never heard of before. And then I do, frankly, absurd amounts of homework trying to be a halfway decent steward of the one thing you've actually handed to me. It's not your money. This show has never asked you for your money. All it asks for is your time, your attention, and your ears. And I know I'm competing with the world for that. That's, I think, though, the most valuable thing that you own. It's the one resource that you're not going to get back. And the entire reason I do homework, the reason I would rather kill an episode than fake an opinion. I have a lot of killed episodes. This is the thing I'm trying very hard to be worth. There's only a handful of minutes we get to each other. I want to be respectful of that time. There's a line in the book that I wrote, and I keep coming back to it when the people in your life are gone. Nobody at the service is going to talk about your portfolio. Nobody's going to recite your net worth. They will talk about the time you gave to them and who you were while you gave it. That's it. That's the scoreboard. When you're gone, they're not going to talk about your watch. They're going to talk about you and your character. Now, they might wear the watch in a remembrance of you, but they're not going to talk about the watch as a grail. It's going to be about you. And that watch might be a $10 watch or a $12 Armatron from my dad, right? It might be a $10,000 watch, $100,000 watch. That doesn't matter. The value of the watch doesn't matter. What matters is your character while you were here on this planet. So you're going to have this. You're going to have multiple watches, maybe with two truths. The same hobby that can be a way to connect people, to honor a memory, or to marvel at something that a human being made by hand, that's special. Or it can be made into a thing to be sold, to be hustled, to be flipped until the joy is gone out of it. And you'll know this because you'll see them on YouTube and they're screaming and they're shocked. And then they're recommending something. And then they're throwing shade on other brands. And they're only throwing shade on brands until they sponsor them. And now all of a sudden, those are their favorite brands. Enough already. The object doesn't decide which one it is. The person wearing it does. You be that person. You want to wear a Hublot? Wear a Hublot. Enjoy it. Rock it. Who cares? That's my episode. A man, again, who made a killing right up until it killed everything. And a small show that is trying very hard to make a living instead. Just out loud, with some receipts on the table. What I'm going to tell you as we end this is to be a little suspicious of enthusiasm, especially when they don't tell you where it comes from. And be very generous with the people who just love this stuff for free. Thanks for your time. I know what it's worth. I'm Riste. We're something good.
Smiling too hard. Say bye.